Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? Jared Fuller here. Today is Sunday, September 2nd, 2018. We are on the second day of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I think last week I reminded everybody that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month from the 1st all the way to the end. I think there's, what, Amy, 30 days in this month? Or 31 days? Amy's joining me off camera, by the way. Dad, he went over to our friend's house, I think. There's 30 days in this month. Okay, so from the 1st to the 30th, that's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I hope you've all had a wonderful week. My week was pretty good. We've had some severe weather come through the state recently, and there have been numerous tornado sightings, not in my area, but to the north and to the south of us. So, yeah, now we're starting to get our late season thunderstorms and severe weather. I was driving home from Lansing last week. I had went out to Sparrow to visit with a warrior, and I went to his house afterwards, and then on the way back home, it was interesting. Lightning was striking really close by my van, and it rained so hard I couldn't see. But it didn't rain in Lansing. Not a drop of rain in Lansing. It's just when I got up by St. John's, that's when it got really, really bad. And it rained so hard I couldn't see. And if you have noticed, I'm wearing some gold ribbon. This is actual ribbon that I had cut off of my spool that I had of gold ribbon that I bought from Walmart. So this is just one way to commemorate Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I'm almost certain that a lot of people, Dad included, they're sharing stories and pictures of their kids because, you know, this is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and those of us who've been directly impacted by it, we share our stories. And now that I'm on Twitter, to be able to explain in detail has been limited. It's been cut down because Twitter has a character limit. But not on Facebook. Facebook is, you can put your heart out there. But putting your heart out there publicly also comes with consequences, I've learned. People love me for my honesty, and people hate me for my honesty, which either way, they can't say I'm not honest. So it's a win-win for me. And speaking of honesty, don't forget to visit GuideStar.org. GuideStar.org. If I can get it. Spit it out. GuideStar.org is a website tied in with the United States federal government, the Internal Revenue Service. They have a complete and comprehensive list of legitimate 501c3 nonprofit organizations and LLCs. Don't be duped. Do your homework. Visit GuideStar.org today, and I will forever and a week push GuideStar.org because we still, quite frankly, have that problem with people who like to use childhood cancer to their own benefit. And you just can't shut me up no matter what you do. Until certain people, the wrongdoers, are caught and held responsible, we need to rid the community of people like that. They like to attach themselves to things thinking that they're going to get something in return. We don't need people like that, and you know, these families have enough to deal with as it is, trying to keep food on their table and keep a roof over their head and take care of their terminally ill children all at the same time, which is a very demanding it's a very demanding journey. It's a very demanding conquest to have to go through, and you know, there's people out there who are just not as good as they say they are. But with that being said, so as many of you know, and I don't want to make this an every week thing where I talk about childhood cancer, because the purpose behind the Sunday video updates is to kind of talk about the week in review. I had a great week. Other than the severe weather, I got to visit some warriors. I went to, matter of fact, and this is something, a couple things I want to point out. after I left the Warrior's house, because I went to Sparrow to see the Warrior, and then I went to his house afterwards. And then after I left his house, I went to the McDonald's in Eaton Rapids. And, because I was hungry, of course. And there were a couple little girls that were sitting inside the diner. And they were eating with their grandmother. And they had noticed all the bracelets on my wrist. And one of the girls says, well, what do all those bracelets mean? And I told them, I'm a childhood cancer survivor. I was treated at Sparrow. And each bracelet represents a warrior who's fighting, or a warrior who went to heaven, or, a survivor. And I told them that I was a survivor, and just as I was getting ready to walk out, the little girl says, "Bye, survivor," which I thought was it was just the sweetest thing. It really brightened my day. It made the day better because the day was already better, knowing that I got to spend it with the warrior that I initially went to see in the first place. But it was really, really sweet. And Friday was check day, right? Yes, Friday was check day. After I went and paid bills, I had to go to Owasso anyway, and I decided to stop at Ponderosa to get a bite to eat. And I noticed there was a little girl who, now when I say she had the look of childhood cancer, what I'm referring to is, you can tell. This little girl, her name is Mary. She had like a peach fuzz on the head, because chemo makes the kids lose their hair. And she had like a little peach fuzz, and she had single strands of longer hair. So I know what that looks like. I know what childhood cancer looks like in that regard. And I had talked to her grandmother. I thought it was her mom, but later found out it was her grandmother. And the little girl, Mary, she gets seen by Dr. Scott, Dr. Guerra, and Dr. Shamden, which is Caleb's 3 pediatric oncologists. I got to meet Dr. Shamden, by the way, on Tuesday when I was in Lansing. Very nice guy. And of course, I was there to watch the Warrior get his port access for vincristine. So I was in the room when all that was going on. But anyway, I was at Ponderosa, and I talked to this little girl, and I talked to her grandmother. And I told her, I said, "You are a very, very strong little girl." I said, you inspire me. I said, "You're a warrior." I said, "You have a big heart." I said, "And I will always carry you in my heart." And she gave me a great big hug around the neck. And I wish I would have gotten her contact information. But luckily, my friends who live in Eaton Rapids, they know this little girl because they have the same pediatric oncologist. The Warrior that I went to see and little Mary, they have the same pet oncos. So it was just one of those moments where, my day this week has just been awesome. It's been wonderful. And I'm doing everything I can. I mean, I'm on Twitter, and like I said previously, Twitter has that character limit where you can only type so many letters and have so many spaces and so many emojis before, time's up. You used up all your space and the time allotted or the space allotted for the characters, which is kind of a bummer because I can never really and truly get a full thought out unless, of course, I do my Sunday video updates. Now, there are lots of people in the childhood cancer community who are now we have advocates who are indirectly affected, or so they call themselves advocates. There's not very many honest advocates out there, but I am friends with a few honest indirectly affected childhood advocates or cancer advocates, I should say. And it's hard sometimes to actually comb through and figure out who's honest and who isn't, because a lot of them, they appear as good people, and they appear as if their hearts are in the right place when, in fact, they hitch their wagons to this lifestyle thinking that they're going to get something out of it. Oh, I'm going to get press. I'm going to get popularity and notoriety. I'm going to make the front page of the paper. I'm going to be doing all these magnificent, wonderful things to make myself feel good in the midst of a deadly, horrific, horrendous battle that is unimaginable to a child, which I find to be not only disgusting, but it's appalling and it's asinine. And I don't care for the people who are only in this community to make themselves look good, to, bolster their ego, to fulfill some kind of a void that they never got early on in life, and now they're using sick kids to try to to fill that void. And I for one, I'm disgusted by it. Because while many of us, we didn't choose this life, this is something that happened, I don't see where these people who are indirectly affected on the outside, I don't really quite understand where they feel as if the childhood cancer community is such an exclusive group, where they feel that this is such a secretive club or a club that we should all join in on. It's nowhere that anybody wants to be. I didn't ask to be a part of this. And of course you have advocates who also, one in particular that we know of, Amy, who, we won't mention names, but he tries to pass himself off not only as an advocate, but as someone who has expertise in pediatric oncology, and he doesn't. And the problem is that when I tried to point out, the oncologists and the hematologists, the medical professionals who are working around the clock, and they are steadfast and quick to jump if they so much as hear a hiccup or every little move a child makes, they are there to watch and to monitor and to make sure everything's okay. So these medical professionals, not only are they, trained in that field of expertise, but they become members of our extended family. They are not only in that field, they not only carry that label as oncologist, nurse practitioner, or what have you, but they are also a steward of our health. Now, Dr. Scott, Dr. Guerra, Dr. Kulkarni, those were my oncologists. I consider them part of my family. They combined between the three. They have over 140 years experience in the field of pediatric hematology and oncology. And as a matter of fact, speaking of Dr. Kulkarni, she is now a specialist in blood clotting, which that's wonderful. That's amazing. But they're more than just what their profession is. It's more than just a job description or a label or a name tag. They are stewards of our health. In other words, meaning that they work around the clock. All of our medical professionals are stewards of, my ribbon fell. All of our medical professionals are stewards of our health. And being an advocate doesn't elevate you to the expertise and professionalism as someone who actually went and studied this and got their degrees in medicine. As far as anything goes, I'm just a dilettante to pediatric oncology because of the fact that while I'm not a professional and I don't administer chemotherapy and radiation and the likes, I was a patient. So I know what that is to have that coursing through your body. So that makes me a dilettante in that regard. I'm not a professional. But there's so many lines drawn. I'm not the one that's responsible for the division in this community. It's those people who are dishonest. And the very minute someone doesn't like me, and there are many who don't, and it doesn't really bother me either way, it doesn't wobble me either which way. These people don't like me, I don't care, but they are trying so desperately to have me put away for something or to have me in some hot water with people. And I mean, I can't begin to tell you the number of times people have said to me, well, you know, Jared, you're being watched by the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children, and all I've done was be an advocate for childhood cancer. That's it. My advocacy efforts are such that when I say I'm an advocate, I mean it. I don't just go throwing the word around free at large and not have teeth to what I say. When I say I'm an advocate, that's exactly what I mean. And that includes calling out the frauds and single-handedly, I mean with my bare hands, that includes dismantling and dissecting the nonsense and the gossip about me. I have no room for it in my life. I'm trying to live the best life I can, and I have dedicated the past 5 years of my life to helping other people. And if you go by the first thing that someone says, then that's your problem. It's your loss. I mean, if you shut me out, that's up to you. That's your loss. And that dinging you hear in the background, Amy's on her cell phone playing, I don't know what game is that, Amy? Words with Friends. But last night, moving on, I just wanted to get that out there. Last night we were at our friend Steve and Teresa's house. They bought a house over in the Marion Springs area, and we had a nice little. They were smoking some beef ribs, and they were awesome. Corn on the cob, veggies, the ribs, and what else was there? Macaroni salad. Yeah, that was, or that suddenly pasta or pasta something. It was pasta salad. It was the twisty, twirly noodles. I can't think of the word right off. I know that's unprofessional. Oh, the twisty, twirly noodles. I just can't think the name of them. I think it's rigatoni. I believe. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Take them off speaker. There you go. Thank you. I'm going to put my gold ribbon back on. But Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is on. It's in full force. This is the second day. So I lost my train of thought because Amy's on the phone. And everybody can hear you. But anyway, I mean, the week's been great as far as anything else goes. Like I said, I got to meet some warrior. I actually got to meet a warrior. I got to spend time with the warrior, and I was greeted by someone who said, "Bye, survivor." When I was walking out of McDonald's, I mean, the week doesn't get any better than that. Is someone here? Don't tell me it's who I think it is. And I do apologize for all these sudden interruptions. Who's at the door? Who is it? Oh, it's Steve. Yeah, come on in. Oh, it's locked. Oh. The guy that Dad went to go see is actually at our house. The door is locked. You'll have to wait for Amy to unlock it. Perhaps I should have waited to start my Sunday video update. Yeah. Yep. I'll be over in a little while. Alrighty. After I finish up my Sunday video update, I'm going to be going back over to our friends. I've known them for probably 25 years. Is Dad on the phone? Okay. Hi, Dad. But I'm saying it to him here in the Sunday video update, so that way when he watches it, he can see me saying hi and waving like a fruity buffoon. Like a fruity buffoon. Hi, Pops. Can you raise my allowance?
Jerry wants to know, can you raise his allowance?
Holy moly. Yeah, can you raise my allowance?
Yeah, I can give you another 50 cents.
Another 50 cents? Okay, that'll be enough to buy a 3-digit.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, son. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Of course, I'm 32 years old. I don't get allowances, but okay, it just got a little bit interesting with some interruptions, but that's okay. So that's basically my week in a nutshell. It's just been great. So as soon as that conversation ends, because everybody can hear you. I typically don't mind, cutting in, when you and Dad are here, but when you're on the phone, it makes it, it makes it kind of difficult. But anyway, it's still been a good week. I mean, all things considered, it was a good week.
Yeah, I was up at my mom's the other day.
Right?
They were going good there besides their sugar going up.
Yeah, that's never a good thing.
No, it scared the daylights out of me. I wouldn't even go in the house.
But I'm sure this video will get shared. Actually, I want to share this on my Twitter page. And for all my haters out there, if you're going to come on Twitter to be hateful and spiteful, just save yourself the trouble, because I'll report you to Twitter. There have been a few. I mean, it's been kept to a minimum on Twitter. It's not like the last time I was on Twitter. It was awful. But now I know who I'm dealing with. Now I know who I'm talking with or talking to. And I don't have a problem reporting people for being nasty and negative or bullying. And I did say this a couple weeks ago. Bullying is not something that only affects young kids. It affects all of us. Just as a matter of fact, what was it, last week, I think we were at the Back 40. And I had spotted a kid that I had went to school with about maybe, 13 years ago, 14, 15 years ago. But there were two of them. Now, one of them actually matured beyond high school. One of them actually matured beyond high school. The other one still acts as if they're in high school. They haven't grown up. And they figure, well, I have a job, I have kids, I'm grown. No. How you behave and how you treat other people, that's a sign of maturity or immaturity, depending on your actions and how you treat people. And I always say, you don't have to like anybody, and I don't have to like anybody, and I could care less if people don't like me at all. I really don't care. But it does not give people the right to bully, to make up gossip, to make up stories, and then spread it around and get everybody to believe it. It's wrong. And it's, on your part, is immature, and it shows people what kind of person you are. And as for me, I'm just doing my thing. And I have lots of friends. So, because many people that I'm friends with, they know better than to believe nonsense. But as is the case in the childhood cancer community, and it's the very last place that I would expect any kind of hate or any kind of nonsense going on between warriors and families, and it's a bunch of he said, she said, and it's the very last place where you want drama and hate, and because it's supposed to be a community where people band together and show support and give a sense of community and family to each other, but that's not the case. And it's all because people like me not only are we survivors and we advocate, but we also call out the fraudulent people of the world. And for the life of me, I will never understand why frauds are defended on a constant daily basis. They don't see, the people who are defending the frauds, they don't see just how fraudulent they are. And people like me who have woken up to this, all we're saying is just think about it, because is this really something that you would allow? Or, well, it's happening to this family, so I don't care that it's not happening to me. Well, you should care. And that's the point that I try to bring home, that we all should care. Because when one warrior, one family is affected, we're all affected. You have to do your homework, which is one of the other chief definitions of family, that we have to stick together. And it's one of the chief reasons why I push GuideStar.org. Every chance I get, there's people who come on Twitter and ask me, well, gee, I don't know where to look to find out who's legit and who isn't. Well, GuideStar.org is a start. I mean, it has a complete and comprehensive list of all of the 501c3s and LLCs and people who are claiming to have legitimate nonprofit organizations and collecting money under false pretenses, which is illegal. And for people to file police reports against people who they don't like is also illegal when it's a false police report. That's a felony. And that's going on. It's going on all the time. People say, well, Jared, I think you're just making this up. No, actually, I'm not making this up. When I was on Facebook, I actually saw people posting about police reports. I mean, it's just so stupid that people are attacking one another. They're at each other's throats over just stupid things. Now, a lot of those problems, what most people would say, that when I call people out, the frauds in particular, they say that a lot of my calling the frauds out contributes to the hate. It doesn't. It doesn't, because you wouldn't want someone ripping you off, especially at a time when time is of the essence, and you're trying to, as I stated previously, you're trying to keep food on the table, you're trying to keep a roof over your head, on top of caring for a terminally ill child. That's a lot to take. And if, don't be mad at me for speaking the truth. Be mad at the truth. I'm just like the consumer watchdog for the trolls and the frauds. And I can't help it if people don't like me because I speak the truth, but they cannot say that I was never honest. Because honesty, at the end of the day, honesty is a very noble thing to have. And I've been honest with each and every person I've ever come in contact with. And I've come in contact with lots of people. There are lots of people who know me for better or worse. I mean, they know me and they love having me around. They love talking to me. And there are people who know me enough just to hate me. I don't care. I don't care. That's the least of my problems. I don't lose sleep, I'm not losing sleep over it. I sleep well at night. I'm not the one out there who not only claims to have a 501c3 when I don't, but I'm not using it for vacation. I'm not using it for my personal benefit and gain. I have helped lots of people financially, and I don't ask for anything in return other than maybe just a friendship or a thank you. That's it. It's friendship to me is everything. And when you earn somebody's trust, which it is getting hard to trust people, and I totally get where people are coming from. It is hard to trust people. But even with that being said, how can you trust someone who's been proven to be a fraud? How can your trust still be there after it's come out that these people are fraudulent? I don't understand. I don't get it. And in an attempt to shut me up and silence me, there's people who they make up a bunch of crap to get back at me in retaliation to shut me up so that way it'll turn people away. Well, you're going to have to hit harder than that. You're going to have to try a little bit harder than that because I'm still here. I still have lots of friends. I'm still doing my thing. And, you know, I live with 2 other people who can also verify and vouch that I have done a lot of things for a lot of people, and I would never, under any circumstances, do the things nowhere near close to doing any of the things that people are saying I'm doing. I mean, Dad's not here, but he would definitely, you know, and maybe there's a bit of bias going on because he's my dad, but even still, I have friends who would say the same thing. Jared would never do that, and that's a lie. I have family who would even say that, no, Jared would never do that because we know him better than that. And, you know, I mean, I was blocked on Twitter recently because I paid someone a compliment. Just by saying that your friendship is greatly appreciated or somewhere in that ballpark. There wasn't anything suggestive being said. It was just a compliment. Your friendship is greatly appreciated. So what do? They blocked. Oh, well. That's your loss. Not mine. I did exactly what I thought was right. But turns out even when you're right, you're still wrong. But that's a whole nother subject. But anyway, guys, yeah, so again, because I can't emphasize enough, the week was great. I mean, it was wonderful. I had a wonderful week. Yeah, it's been, well, actually, we carry thunderstorm chances all this week. And it stormed like crazy yesterday. There were tornado warnings to the north and south of us. And I guess they did confirm some tornadoes up in Alba, Michigan, ALBA, Alba, Michigan, which is in Antrim County. It's way up here. They confirmed an EF1 tornado, I think. And in West Branch in Ogemaw County, they confirmed an EF0 or an EF1 tornado up there. And there was a tornado confirmed in Augrey, which is in Aranac County. And there were tornado warnings just yesterday south of Battle Creek, down by Kalamazoo. So we've been getting our late season, summertime severe thunderstorms. Typically we would be getting these in July or whatever, but we had a late winter as well. I'm good friends with the chief meteorologist at WJRT ABC 12. And he was reminding me that, well, we had kind of a late winter, and so now we're having a late summer. Now we're starting to get our severe weather, which makes sense. I mean, we've had severe thunderstorms in October. We've had tornado warnings in October. And in November, we've had severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. It's Michigan, and if you want the weather to change, just wait 5 minutes. I think that's the motto, or wait 5 seconds, or five minutes. I knew it was something like that anyway, but yeah, I heard a town called Albion, which is in Jackson County. I heard they got flooded because there were just really bad storms. Jackson was even flooded, I think. That's what I heard. Yeah. Well, Stockbridge would be north, I think. Well, there's Weberville. Stockbridge, yeah. That'd be like a little north of Jackson, I think. Or north. Yeah. Stockbridge is down in, yeah. I've been to Stockbridge. It's been a while, though. I think it's in Ingham County, Stockbridge. Yeah. Because Lansing and East Lansing and Okemos and Diamondale, Diamondale I think is Eaton County. Dansville is in Ingham County. That's all Ingham County. I'm just kind of reiterating my Michigan geography here. I'm pretty good with maps. I know how to locate. I know where certain places are. But Ingham County would be the capital county of Michigan, is what I call it, because Lansing is in Ingham County. But the Ingham County Courthouse is in Mason. So, but they do have county branch offices in the city of Lansing. But Mason is the county seat of Ingham County. It's weird. I think we're the only state whose county seat is also not the state capital or something like that. It's weird. Detroit, now, because a lot of people think that Detroit is our capital. At one time it was. Many, many, many decades ago, centuries ago, Detroit was the capital of Michigan. Then they moved it to Lansing. I don't know why. It's more in the centralized part of the state. Maybe that was the reason. I have no idea. I would have to Google that because we all Google now. So Google is a good tool for a lot of things. Not everything, but for most things. I'd say it's about 97, 98% effective, I would say. Not 100%, because I don't always find what I'm looking for through the Google search engine, but for a good bulk of the time, it's not so bad. I think I got to sneeze. I can feel it coming. Nose is burning. Oh, I hate that. And I don't know how I could have forgotten this. I think, or did I mention it last week? We had John McCain passed away. Aretha Franklin died. Yes, I did mention that last week. And Robin Leach passed away. And we had another Neil Simon, I think his name was. I know I'm probably getting it wrong, but he was like 91, and he was a writer, stage performer, I believe. So there's been a lot of death going on, but that's life. Yesterday was Beverly Saval's services in Chesaning, I believe. I didn't make it. Oh, she was buried in St. Charles. Okay. So there's been a lot happening. There's been a lot going on. Some good, some bad. You know, you got to take the good with the bad. That's life. But we keep going. And that's just the way it's got to be. And I'm not sure if I have any, I'm not sure if I have any young viewers watching my channel, but the older you get, the more you realize that, things change and you don't always get what you want. And you just got to learn to roll with the punches. And it's here today, gone tomorrow world and life that we live currently. But on a much lighter note, I'm going to see how long I've been here. I know I've been here for over a half an hour. Oh yeah, about almost 40 minutes. Almost 40 minutes. We're getting there. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? I know if Dad was here, he would have plenty to talk about, like my allowance. No. I bet there is something I want to talk about, and I just can't think of it. It happens every week. I get everything out there that I want to say, and I just don't know. I mean, there's always something that I feel that I'm missing. And when I end the video, oh, I should have mentioned that, or oh, I forgot that. How could I have forgotten that? It happens. And I decided that I would like to use this microphone for my Sunday video updates because it helps reduce the noise in the background. Although I think people can still hear background noise. But because they can hear everything I'm saying through the mic, so Hopefully it helps to reduce some of the background. But when I can still hear in the background, which can be distracting to me, so that's why I it's like, oh, hold on a minute, hold on a second. But now if you and Dad were talking or putting your 2 cents in on a topic, that would be fine. It's just when there's other distractions or other people are talking amongst themselves, it's kind of a distraction, and it's like, what, So no disrespect or anything like that, but I get easily distracted. Today is Brianna's birthday. The little girl that I stayed with a couple weeks ago. Well, not just the little girl, but their family. The family, I stayed with them in New York a couple weeks ago. Today is her birthday, I think, because they're having a birthday party for her. And I'm not there, but I'm there in spirit. That's just as good, I think. So, Bree, if you're watching this, I love you. Happy birthday. Ouch. Ouch. Hit my elbow on my tusk. Ooh, that didn't feel good. But happy birthday. I hope you have a fun day, and I hope your party goes well. I'm going to have to buy some more ribbon. Because I got a feeling I'll be doing some more projects related to childhood cancer. I can't believe that next March is going to be 30 years since my diagnosis. March 2nd of 2019 will be the 30th cancerversary for me. And if you're watching this on Twitter or just on my YouTube channel, and if we're following one another or if we're subscribed to one another, I hope that we are still friends in March of 2019 and beyond. I want to keep my friends for as long as I can. And, I want people to know how I'm doing, because a lot of my friends say, well, you put so eloquently into words your thoughts, and you speak for yourself so well. I try. I mean, I'm not a professional. I'm not particularly good at speaking, but I can say for the most part, by and large, if I've conveyed a thought, and if someone gets what I'm saying, they listen to what I have to say, or they read the words I write, then they get something from it. Professionalism when I talk, I mean, it's to me it's important. I want to be as grammatically correct as possible, and I don't want to use words that aren't words, like irregardless. That's not a word, and I hear people use that quite frequently. The terminologies that you're supposed to use are either irrespective or regardless. And there's people who use the word conversate. It's not conversate, it's converse. That's the proper word to use. And when people are meaning to say they don't condemn people from doing something, they say, I don't condone people. Well, no, you would condone people to live the life they want, but you're not going to condemn them for the choices they make. That's what they're trying to say. So there's a little bit of, word jumbo going on there, and they get the words confused. I've done it. I've slipped up here in YouTube world quite often. Just in this video today, I've had trouble spitting out some words. But as long as a message gets conveyed in a way that people will understand, that's really all I care about. I don't care about, well, Jared is not pausing or he's talking too fast, that kind of thing. I just speak what's on my mind, but I try to do it in a way where people will understand, and I try to sound as professional as I can and adult and mature as I can when I speak about issues that I think should be important to all of us, not just the people who are affected directly and impacted by those issues. Childhood cancer being one of them. And there are many things that we face every day in our lives. People go about their lives doing their daily routines, and they're just not giving other things second thoughts. And while I try to put out the best image I can in the spectrum of raising awareness to pediatric cancer, there's a lot of raw emotion. There's a lot of raw, just what you see is what you get. If you are friends with someone on Facebook who is, or even following someone on Twitter who, they post pictures of warriors hooked to wires and machines and they're probed up and things like that. They're not doing this to scare you or to make your day, go south or go bad or to put a damper on your day. We do this to make you understand why this is important to us and why it should be important to you. Because there was a time when we weren't in this. My parents were not in this community until 1989. And since then, it's been a hell of a ride. Even in my adult years, because people ask me, as a matter of fact, the little girl, Mary, that I had met at Ponderosa, her grandma was asking me some questions about long-term after effects from chemo. And I am allergic to the sun. It's called photosensitivity. I had 3 kinds of chemo, vincristine, adriamycin, doxorubicin, which they call the red devil because of its very imminent red color, and dactinomycin. Those were the 3 I had. A lot of warriors, they take 6-MP or methotrexate. They take the oral chemo. I was too little to take oral chemo, so I had to take chemo through the IV. So I had to take that intravenously. And my port mark is, if you haven't seen it, it is right here. You can see a little, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a little mark right there. That's where I had my port. And this is my scar from my Wilms tumor kidney removal. So the whole kidney come out, not just the tumor. And of course, there is a little white, like a blotch on my wrist. I don't know if you guys can see it. You probably have to look very closely. But that's where I had a procedure called arterial blood gas, also known as ABG, where they check the oxygen levels in your blood. And they have to put you to sleep for that. Well, they don't have to, but it's painful. It's a painful procedure. They go underneath of the skin in the wrist. It hurts. It hurts bad. But when I was in Lansing on Tuesday, and I was in the room when the warrior was being accessed. He was getting his port access for his vincristine. He was sitting on his dad's lap, and he screamed. He just totally screamed, and I know that's an understatement. But for those who aren't, this is how traumatic that this disease is. Even to this day, I have PTSDs. I so much as smell rubbing alcohol, and it's like I have flashbacks of checkups and, just places I didn't want to be. But anyway, that's the trauma that follows childhood cancer. The oncologist, she didn't even get the needle. She just picked it up, and she didn't even get it out of the package, and he's screaming and crying, and he says, "No, I don't want it, I don't want it." And he was kicking his legs, and I had to hold his legs down, and I said, "Come on, buddy, you're tough, you can do this, I know you can, you've had this done a lot already." And he would let out a big scream when they put it in, and then he would just sit there and watch them take their blood samples. And, a part of my heart, it breaks my heart because I see so much of this nonsense. These kids have to go through so much, and it's heartbreaking, and I can't imagine what my mom and dad went through when I was little, and, with accessing my port and being kept in an isolation cage, and I was kept in a cage, and I was brought out when it was time to do treatments and things like that. I was like in a quarantine kind of a thing. but they kept me in an isolation cage. My parents can verify this, by the way, if you don't believe me, but that really happened. And I hear this a lot too, that, well, Jared, you don't remember anything. You were too little to remember, so why do you have such an emotional appeal to something that you don't remember? And my response to that is, my ability or inability to remember that is irrelevant. Or as what most people would say, irregardless. They would use the improper word. It's irrelevant. Regardless of the fact that I can or can't remember something doesn't change the facts of what happened. And I can't stress that enough. I can't emphasize enough that your ability or inability to remember something doesn't change the facts of what actually happened. My parents remember this. And, I actually had someone on Facebook, when I was on Facebook, Amy, I actually had someone they demanded that I show them my medical charts. Hello? No. That is a violation of HIPAA laws, for one. And for two, there's mountains of evidence. If not the scars on my body, the mountains of paperwork at Dr. Scott's office in Lansing. He still has the original folder where Mom and Dad had to sign consent forms for blood transfusions and chemo and all that, radiation. This is a kind of crap that I've had thrown at me over the course of 5 years. Just the same monotonous stupidity, these remarks that it's like, don't you people ever think about what you want to say before you say it, or are you just going to be pompous and say what you want to say anyway, regardless of the fact that what you're saying is incorrect? That's what I've had to deal with. And quite frankly, as many times as I've talked about this, and it's going to take me more Sunday video updates, or just videos, not just on Sunday, but videos in the future, where I dissect and dismantle the nonsense with my bare hands and point out the flaws. Because eventually, someone's going to see this and they're going to think, you know what, Jared's right, because this doesn't make sense, and what he's explaining in this video makes perfect sense. Again, don't be mad at me, be mad at the truth. I went on another little rant there, and I do apologize, but that's the reality. And when I had to sit there and watch Caleb get that done, it broke my heart. Because that is a part of his reality. That is the trauma of knowing what's going to happen before it even happens. I can relate every time. I would so much as get labs, and needles terrify me. Well, they terrified me. They don't bother me so much now, but when I was little, I was 4 and 5 years old, and I had to go to East Lansing at the clinic to get labs and ultrasounds, x-rays. But when I had to get labs, I was crying before they even called my name, because I knew what was coming. That long L word on the wall, laboratory, and it stood out like the bubonic plague, And it was that long L word. I could never say it, but I know what it meant. It's like, oh, this, And they had I don't know if they still do. We're talking, 25 years ago. They had this aquarium built into the wall in the waiting room. And just the biggest goldfish you could imagine. And my dad would always try to keep me preoccupied and say, Jared, look at the goldfish. And no, and I'd be crying. I'd be bawling. We even walk in the room, and I've got tears strolling down my face. But I'd be bawling, and it's like, no, and I'm looking back there hoping that maybe they'd forget about me, and they never did. And they would call my name, and I'd have Jared Bear clenched in my arms. And I'd be kicking and screaming every step of the way. My dad would pick me up. No, 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 no. And I'd be crying. And he'd set me on his lap, and I'd have my Jerry Bear here, in my arms. I'd have him clenched, and I would be screaming uncontrollably. I would be like one of the most boisterous patients that they had. And the nurse says, Jared, or they call me Jerry Bear even then, and say, now come on, Jerry Bear, you've had this done a lot of times. That's true, but you don't get used to it. And so the nurse would get down to eye level and say, Jerry Bear, I know you can do this. 1, 2, 3, it's a mosquito bite and it's over. And when they would put the needle in, they do the tourniquet and do the little alcohol swab, and they would count down to 3, 1, 2, 3, mosquito bite. She'd put the needle in, and it's a little 25 gauge butterfly needle. And I would scream. I'd let out a scream, and then I'd sit there and watch the blood travel through the catheter into the vial. And Dad would say, oh, look at your blood, isn't that cool? And I'm thinking, oh, I'm losing blood, I'm going to die. And that would be another reason to cry. And they said, no, Jerry Bear, no, you're not going to die. Your heart pumps new blood, you'll be fine. And then I'd have my choice of a Winnie the Pooh or a Mickey Mouse Band-Aid, and I loved Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse, but I would always get Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was probably my favorite as a child, although I loved them both. But that's a little history of when I go to clinic in East Lansing for checkups. And I, not too long ago, had an ultrasound done, but I had that done on Owasso at the hospital. I know that was a routine cancer checkup. Dr. Small, I almost said Dr. Scott. Dr. Small is my family doctor, and he tried to make it sound like something other than that. And I told him, I said, look, I'm not a child anymore. I'm a grown adult. And can we just call it what it is? I mean, we don't have to play this, I'm going to smuggle this in under the guise of something other than what it is. I'm not going to call it a cancer checkup. I'm just going to call it a physical, or I just want to make sure that you're okay kind of a thing. No, it's a checkup. I know what checkups are. It's not my first rodeo. And, I had that done just recently, an ultrasound in Owasso. I think it was, a month ago? A month or two ago. And I'm sitting, I know I have a little kid in me still, because when they applied that jelly to my stomach, it made the flatulent sound. I'm laughing. I did that when I was a kid. I laughed because it sounded like I was passing gas. It made the sound, And I laughed even then. And I don't know. I'm still a big kid at heart. But anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm not sitting there. I'm laying back on the bed, and I'm got my hands up on my mouth like this. And it's like, oh, this is uncomfortable because I'm very sensitive about my stomach and my chest being touched. I'm getting better at it. But I'm still, I don't know if it's mind over matter. Maybe it is, but either way, I'm getting used to it. And the part I don't like about ultrasounds is when they push that wand down on your stomach, or they push it down on your rib cage. And I can feel my rib cage shifting when they're doing this. And it's like, oh my God, are we hurting you? No. It's a little uncomfortable, but you're not hurting me. I could just feel bones shifting. Yeah, sometime. Well, when I had a CT scan done, I had to drink that barium stuff, that liquefied rock, and it is disgusting. Well, we'll add grape or orange. Well, there's no justice to be had when you add flavor. Flavored rock as opposed to unflavored rock? Yeah, sure. I love drinking rock that's transitioned over into a liquid. Not. Barium is gross, or they call it contrast. It's barium. Barium is nasty. But there's so much about my cancer battle, and like even with the checkups, I remember the checkups like they were yesterday. And if you're following me on Twitter, I made some graphics about survivor guilt. And I have a story about that too. When I got my first dose of survivor guilt, many of you may be familiar with this. Many of you probably aren't, so I'm going to reiterate that story. So I'm about 4 or 5 years old, and I'm at clinic in East Lansing. And I'm standing with my Jared Bear, of course, because I took Jared Bear with me everywhere. Everywhere. It didn't matter where. He was with me. He was my sidekick. He was my buddy. And he brought me comfort and joy. Well, I'm standing there, and another child comes in with the IV pole. And they're wearing like a hospital gown. They're just in their underpants or whatever, and they're wearing their hospital gown, and they're missing hair. They don't, they're bald and everything, and they have the little bracelets on, the armbands. And I'm just standing there watching on. I'm a child myself, and I remember it like it was yesterday because my mother, she kind of kneeled down and she says, "Son, it's not polite to stare." And so I kind of looked away, and I'm kind of looking over the corner of my eye, and I can still see that child. And a part of me knew that, this is just, something's going on. And, of course, because according to most people, well, you were too little to remember. Yes, I was too little to remember. But even then, when I saw that for myself, I could sense that something was wrong. Obviously, we're in a clinic, and it's university clinic. So something was wrong. And that same day, we were on our way home. We were in our 1987 Cavalier station wagon, and I had my Alf blanket. I'm sure you remember the television show Alf, the alien life form. Yeah, I still have my Alf blanket. The TV show Alf used to eat cats, If you weren't alive in the 80s or the early 90s, you wouldn't remember. I remember it. But anyway, I'm in the back seat, and I've got my Alf blanket. I'm covered in my Alf blanket, and it's me and Jared Bear always. And Dad turned the radio on. And the Bette Midler song called "From a Distance" come on the radio. And I started bawling. And my mom could hear my sniffles under the blanket in the back seat. And she says, "Son, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I said, that kid that you told me not to stare at? Yeah. That kid had cancer too? Right. And that made me sad. That was my first dose of survivor guilt. And a lot of people say, "Well, Jared, you couldn't have known at that time that it was survivor guilt because you didn't understand." Well, I'm sorry, but I did know what that was. I just couldn't pinpoint at that time. I knew something was wrong. But I knew then that, because Mom had even mentioned, well, that child has cancer. And that's what you went through. That's why you're going to clinic. And so that's when I had my very first taste of survivor guilt. And now that I look back, I still get emotional, and I'm getting better at it. But even now when I look back on it, it was just, again, I couldn't imagine what Mom and Dad went through. Dad, he talked a lot about, he would go back and forth from the hospital, Sparrow, to home, Sparrow's in Lansing, but he would go from Lansing to home to work, do it all over again the next day. From work to home to the hospital, and he would just juggle the three all the time, and he barely got any sleep, barely got any rest. He even told me, he says, there were times when I would just sleep in the garage at Sparrow, in the parking garage, because I'd be so tired from driving and from work, going back and forth all the time. He says, I would just be too tired to walk up to your room and ride up the elevators or go up the flight of steps or whatever. And, it was a horrific time, and it's a horrific time for anyone who has to go through this with their child. It completely, for me, being so young, what it did was it completely eviscerated my childhood to the point where I never knew a life without being allergic to the sun. I never knew a life without going to clinic. I never knew a life without needles or x-rays or, all these procedures, scans, EKGs, the whole 9 yards. I never knew a life without it. And even to this day, I don't know what it's like to live a life without having, even today, the long-term effects, photosensitivity, being allergic to the sun. I have no idea what it's like to be able to go outdoors and enjoy the outdoors without being burned up by the sun. I can be outside and I can be in the shade, but I'm still allergic to the sun, regardless if I'm in the shade. I'm still allergic. It's an autoimmune system or autoimmune disease that was triggered by the chemo. And people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand, or they refuse to listen. Or they say, well, you're just milking this for what it's worth. Well, God, if I had my way about it, I wouldn't have had cancer at all. And then I could be on the side that was not impacted by this directly, and I could say, yeah, I know what it's like to live a normal life and to lead a normal life and enjoy the sun, and I'd be doing all kinds of things that I would have otherwise, I didn't get to do. I would have done those. And it's the same kind of monotony that I hear from people who just don't like me for whatever the reason. And that's just not my problem. I don't care if they don't like me or if, oh well. But there's not a day go by I wish I could say, I don't know what childhood cancer is. I wasn't directly impacted by this. My family wasn't impacted by this. Yes, we were. I can't change that now. Nobody can change it. We can't rewind the clock and go back. But what I can do is I can take that traumatic experience in my life and all my traumatic experiences, and I could use that to help other children who are going through similar situations. And I can help them using my past experiences and how I learned to cope, and the coping mechanisms that I had developed over time, having done the certain procedure so many times. I could show other kids my coping mechanisms for dealing with certain procedures that leave them feeling uncomfortable. And that's it. And I think, and even Jimmy says it, I think people are just jealous because I can speak from the experience of childhood cancer all day, every day. I know what it is. And chemo hosts a caveat of different side effects, long-term, short-term. It's not something I would wish on anyone, but it's something that, I didn't ask to be in this, and I cannot ask to not be a part of this. I'm in it for the rest of my life now. It's in my blood, literally. It's in my blood. It's like, why suddenly, since when did I become a victim of my own afflictions? It's like I'm trying to help people, and I can't escape. I can't detach myself from this life, and from the life of being a childhood cancer survivor. I wish I could, but I can't. I don't enjoy being knowing that I was affected by that. And what I would much rather do, instead of looking at this from a victim point of view, I look at this from a warrior point of view, and being a warrior means that I had risen to the occasion, and I fought for my life. Sure, I didn't ask for this. Nobody does. But at the end of the day, we have to do what we have to do to survive. We do what we have to do even in the years of being a survivor after the initial battle. We do what we have to do to get the word out, to convey that very prominent message about childhood cancer, and we need more funding geared towards research, especially for DIPG warriors, which I find to be just absolutely disgusting that little to no money is going to research cures for DIPG. It is astronomically, it's upsetting, because so many of people that I've got to meet, their children have died. I mean, when Bryson Ricker passed away, I got to meet Bryson and Preston. If you're on Facebook, you probably follow the page Team Ricker Strong. I went to the Rickers' house. I was in their home. I stood at the foot of Bryson's bed when he was bedridden. The DIPG was terrible. And when he passed away, I was at his candlelight vigil. He passed away before Christmas Eve. I was at his funeral. I had driven all the way out to Rockford, Michigan, which is out by Grand Rapids. I had driven all the way to the church in Rockford to be at his funeral. And when I left that day, I cried and cried and cried all the way home. I bawled my eyes out. I held it until I left the church. Maybe I just didn't want people to see me that way, but I grieved. Badly, I grieved because I got to meet Bryson. He was like one of the sweetest, most nicest kids I'd ever met in my life. Even had, I got to meet him those couple of times. But right then and there, I knew he was like one of the sweetest kids. And you can feel it in your heart. You can feel it within yourself. When you know that someone is good and genuine and decent, you just get that immediate gut reaction feeling that just beautiful people. And Bryson's life was cut short because of DIPG. Preston, his brother, is also a cancer survivor. I haven't heard from the Rickers recently. I'm actually hoping that I can maybe, drive out there again and see them. But I don't want to show up uninvited and unexpectedly. I would like to plan a time where I can go out and visit the Rickers. But and I think of Bryson particularly because he's a fallen warrior and a young man from right here in Michigan, another young man from Michigan, I should say, because the Rickers are also from Michigan. A young man from Essexville, Michigan, which is a suburb of Bay City. His name was Ryan, and he passed away. And he was young. He was only 24. And he was a warrior. He was a Michigan State Spartans fan. He was a go green kind of a kid. I never got to meet him, but I'm sure it would have been a real pleasure and a delight to get to meet a brother in gold. There are a lot of warriors I've met over the course of 5 years. It's been wonderful to meet them, and in spite of all the things that were being said about me and spread around, the rumors and the gossip, the parents made the decision to cut ties with me and cut communication, and I have nothing to do with them anymore. But even with that being said, it's not about winning and losing. It's about you believe something that was never found to be true, and yet here I am today talking to a broad, wide audience, both YouTube and Twitter and wherever else this video is being shared, and I'm describing and discussing all of these things with you. If any of these things were true, I'd be in jail, I think, because the rumors are severe to the point where it's just now they're doing anything. They're desperate to have me put away in one way or the other. They're trying to shut me up. And even if that means getting the law involved, they're doing it. I'm sure they are. That's okay. And when someone says to me, well, you're being watched by the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children, I think it was. Cool. Then maybe they can see all the wonderful things I've been doing for the past 5 years, and they would be well aware that I am a childhood cancer survivor and an advocate. So watch away. There's nothing that you're hoping to find, or what, whatever the case may be. I've been told that slander is a very hard, very high bar to meet, but yet people respond to slander all the time. So it can't be that difficult. People go by word of mouth instead of investigating and researching and coming to me. Jared, they're saying this about you. I just want to find out what's going on. But instead, they jump the gun. They think it's true, and then they act on social media by blocking or doing whatever it is they do. But I can assure you, none of it is true, and if it were, again, I wouldn't be sitting here. And Amy wouldn't be sitting there, because I wouldn't be here to know that she's sitting there. Yeah. You'd be in Saginaw visiting me at the county jail. Yeah. And I have no criminal record of any kind. I have no prior record at all. I've never been in jail or prison. And people are just, there's a difference between being a bully and actually standing up for yourself. And the two often get mistakenly conflated, because a bully is someone who attacks for whatever reason. They attack and they try to put you down, or they try to put you out. And a person who stands up for themselves, like myself, I'm here saying, I'm not going to take this. Yeah. And a bully, they will attack anything or anyone that they don't like, just because they don't like them. I'm defending myself, and I'm saying that's incorrect. And if you want to believe that for no good reason, that is your problem. And I guess it's best that we didn't speak. But for what it's worth, those people who decidedly believed everything they were told, and they went and did what they did, they are always more than welcome to contact me. My email address is in the About tab section of my channel. I'm not a hard person to find, obviously, because there's so many people that will say so many different things about me, and there's even more people who believe it. And I'm not going to give my haters the satisfaction of, oh, well, it's working, it's proving effective, these lies and all this stuff we're saying, it must be working because people are acting on this, and because what it is, Amy, is they make it sound so convincing. They have no evidence, no way of proving anything that they're accusing me of or blaming me of, but they have this element of convincing people and persuading people into believing things that aren't true, which is dishonest. That doesn't fall on me. The fact that people block me based on what they are told, that falls on them. That tells me the kind of people they are. And anyone to go so low and to act so childish and to be as immature as they are, that they have to make up gossip to get back at me in retaliation because I expose someone that they just love so much, and I don't know why. If it takes for them to stoop so low that they have to make up garbage and nonsense about me, that also tells me the kind of people they are. And here I am, again, for another week of the Sunday video update. And I appreciate all of you tuning in this week. And I'm going to try to, what I would like to do is put out some more videos relating to childhood cancer awareness and kind of talking about my journey. I guess a couple of years ago, I tried to put together like a series of videos talking about my memories from my checkups, which you can still find on my channel. But all in all, I mean, after all this time, I'm doing okay. I'm other than being allergic to the sun, and I'm allergic to stupidity of people. That's not a side effect from chemo, although I think. Yeah, I've always been allergic to stupidity, by the way. I'm doing okay. I mean, as far as I can tell, as far as Amy can tell, if Dad was here, I would be getting his input, but he's not here. So maybe we'll catch him next week. Maybe next week he'll not be busy on a Sunday and he'll say, hey, let's do the Sunday video update. Oh, want a cup of coffee? But after I'm done here, I got to upload my video to my channel, and then I'll be heading over to Stephen Teresa's. But to reiterate, in a nutshell, I am a decent person. I've always been. I've always put other people's well-beings ahead of my own. And for the past 5 years, I've been helping as many people as I can, and it hasn't been the greatest, and it's not based on, well, they don't appreciate what I do or whatever. It's not just that, although I do have those feelings. But the biggest problem is people who like to spread rumors and gossip. And the families that I've helped, a lot of them actually believe what they're being told, and that really, it's upsetting and it's frustrating, because who better can tell a story or share a story about what childhood cancer is? I understand a lot of these parents who are frustrated with me, they're bereaved parents, or they just have a vendetta against me, which, that's not my problem. But they have something against me. They just don't like it because I am a voice for people within the same community. The flagship that brought us together was childhood cancer. And again, most people they call themselves advocates, they do it specifically for the bravado of being an advocate. They don't do it for the children. They don't do it for the well-being and the benefit of the people that they're advocating. They do it for them. Now, personally, I think that's disgusting and immoral, and it's an atrocity. And even if I wasn't an advocate, I'm still a survivor. And again, that's not something, I could peel off the layer of being an advocate and stick with being a survivor, but why would I do that? Why would I do that? At this point, after 5 years of having put in so much time, so much effort, why would I peel that off? Why would I peel that layer off? Because being a survivor means that I have something to share with people who are going through those similar experiences. I'm not going to turn my back on people who are going through things like that. It's those people who have decidedly turned their back on me. And it makes me very, very sad. Because I am one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and I'm not trying to sound like a narcissist, or I'm not trying to sound, self-promoting, but just to give you a glimpse of who I am, I'm a survivor. I support talent. I'm friends with people in the entertainment industry as well. I have connections, and I feel very lucky, and I feel very loved to have the friends that I have and the people that I consider my family. I'm sad that there are people that I've helped who would believe something so disturbing, and they don't even come to me. They don't bother to come to me and ask questions. Many people have, or they say, well, Jared, this is what they're saying. And, after hearing the same thing, the same stupid crap over and over and over again, there just comes a point where I say, I don't care. Let them talk. Because I know what's true. You know what's true. And what's true is that I'm the opposite of what they are claiming I am. And what's true is that they are so mad at me. They are so frustrated and angry with me that they gotta make crap up. That's the kind of people they are. That's the kind of childish, low-down people that they are. I, on the other hand, I choose to use my time to help people who need it as best as I can. I can't be there for everyone every second of the day. I'm not omnipresent. I don't have that power. I wish I could clone myself 3 or 4 times over where I can actually be there for everybody, but I can't. I'm only one person, and I'm doing the best I can, and I have to focus on certain people one at a time. But on the other hand, if I'm at somebody's house or if I'm at the hospital seeing a warrior, I can text, and I can say, hey, what's up? I'm visiting a warrior. Or if someone texts me while I'm visiting at the hospital or at somebody's house, I can respond and say, hey, I'm visiting a warrior, or I'm doing charity work right now. I'm at the hospital. We'll catch up later. But I have put so much time and effort into helping other people, whether it be charity work, visiting people in the hospital, at their homes, having bird shirts made, writing poems for the warriors. I have done so much. I have decals on my van, childhood cancer related. I've put my life into this. I'm very passionate about raising awareness to childhood cancer, not just Wilms tumor, not just the IPG, not just leukemia or neuroblastoma, but all childhood cancers, all that are known to exist to people who are affected, and to the world. But the one thing we have to scrap out is the word rare, because childhood cancer is not rare. You can't take an annual number of diagnoses and say that it's rare. There are lots of annual diagnoses every year. I mean, St. Jude, I think, released a statistic in their commercial. 1 in every 285 children will be diagnosed, and 1 in every 5 will not survive. So there is no rarity involved when you have that. I mean, those numbers are very, very prominent. And we can't ignore that. And we have to stop ignoring that. And we sure as heck have to get rid of the word rare, because it's not rare by any stretch of the imagination. I'm living proof of that. I don't gloat about being living proof of anything that could have potentially killed me, because that's the survivor guilt. And I do have that bit of guilt about surviving something that other children and perhaps teenagers did not survive. That is very real. That is, I mean, the fact that I survived it and so many other children and teenagers didn't, to me, that is very heartbreaking. And I feel guilty because, you know, I feel bad. I survived something that they didn't. And I've had people tell me, well, Jared, maybe you should call it something other than guilt, because nobody would ever feel guilty about being alive. In this situation, yes, there is a great deal of guilt. I'm sure survivor guilt applies in other areas and aspects of life, not just childhood cancer. But in this particular instance, because I know childhood cancer, I can speak more about childhood cancer than any other traumatic downfall or disease known to exist. I can't speak about Lou Gehrig's disease. I can't speak about ALS would be Lou Gehrig's disease, I think. I don't want to. I want to get my information correct, but I can't speak about any other debilitating disease because I've never been affected by that disease. Childhood cancer, leukemia, and Wilms and all that, I can speak about childhood cancer. The cancers may be different, but the journeys are very similar. And I've even, there's people who even question that. Well, why is it called a journey? Are we going on a trip? We're embarking on this trip that I didn't know about? It's a journey because you're going through the processes and you're going through this lifestyle. It's very different from what we're used to. And that's why it's a journey. That's why I see it as a journey, and many other people see it as a journey. We're not wrong. Some people just have different viewpoints about what they would consider to be a journey, or they have different viewpoints and outlooks on how they view childhood cancer as a whole, or just cancer in general, maybe not specifically pediatric cancer, but my focus is pediatric cancer. But I have lots of friends who are also adults who are cancer warriors or fighters, and they're in remission or whatever. I have brothers and sisters of all ages. I've discovered this through social media. So social media has one good thing going for me. I discover who my extended family is. But even like family, they can turn their back on you at the drop of a hat. And that to me is very disheartening. But it's something that I guess I just had to just get used to. But anyway, I have been here for, let's see, over an hour and a half. I've been here for an hour and a half flapping my big fat advocate gums. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to get heading over to Stephen Teresa's. Thank you all again for watching this week and for listening to me talk. I hope that we get through the month of September with no hassle, and that we celebrate the life of the fighter, and we celebrate the life of the survivor, and we remember the fallen. So much love to all of you. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Jared Fuller, childhood cancer survivor. I love you all. Sorry to bump the mic. I will see you next week. Peace out.